Welcome into this carrier update presented by Uptake. I'm Tony Mulvey, joined by Thomas Boston. Thomas, going to start on a map. It's one of, again, me and Dottie talk about this often, and it's one of my favorite maps because it kind of it puts into context where major changes are happening. It's our weighted rejection index. You're seeing a few changes out there.
Exactly. I mean, it's mostly been stable, but if you're looking at especially changes, compared to yesterday, the ones that stood out to me, obviously the Mile High City is not reaching mile high rejection rates, but it's trying to get there. Then we also have right over here the Charlotte market as well as the parts of South Carolina, Asheville. It's kind of a weird market how the zip zones combine, but we're seeing movements in the Carolinas, those regions.
Yeah, and I mean, you got it here with the outbound tender reject index behind it, right? So the higher the market in terms of height, the higher the rejection rate. So I mean, you're looking at these, they're kind of right there in that middle, right? They're not as high as what you see out there in Minnesota or North Dakota or things like that, where you expect rejection rates to be higher, right? But they're moving in a direction that's a positive for carriers.
Exactly. We always start with the map because we're going to look at what's the environment, the terrain that we're checking out. This is the freight terrain. We're going to kick it over to our next chart here, and we're going to go into a higher version of what we're looking at nationwide. So, we're zooming out a little bit, and we're at 4.33%. Now, I decided to throw a few extra lines on here because let's put it into context, folks. We're below 2019. And this is approaching peak season near the end of the year. We normally would expect some sort of seasonality, some sort of uptick. We see upticks in the past here, but right now what's concerning is there's just way too many trucks in the market and not enough freight.
Yeah, there's not. And I mean, we've talked about it. You start looking at spot rates, right? They're really depressed. Contract rates haven't come down maybe quite as fast. They've come down off their peak that they were in, June? But there's incentive now to stay in compliance, right? I mean, you think about contract rates, what we see don't include fuel. Well, fuel surcharges are exceptionally high right now because of high diesel prices. Spot rates, or that all-in rate, they've come down despite fuel going up. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me to see rejection rates low. I think what's interesting is that we're below those 2019 levels because that's what you hear is, we're not going back to 2019. We're not going back to 2018. Like, things are better than that. Well, we're at 2019 levels below it in this index.
Exactly. Final chart real quick. We have like a few seconds left. Speaking of depressed, it depends on your mode of travel because I did the 3-year search just because, we see the craziness of the pandemic, but check it out. Reefer, 6.3%. Van, 4.17%, and flatbed down to 12.21. So we know that flatbed tells us manufacturing, industrial activity, we're seeing a decrease. Refrigerated tells us that even our perishables and stuff, we're seeing that there's a decrease. And finally, van, consumer, retail, and everything. It's all going down. So speaking of depression here, hopefully we don't have a blue Christmas because it's up to us to buy more things.
Absolutely. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for this update. We'll be sure to check in with you again a little later. Right now, we'll toss it over to Sydney Edwards with a look at this morning's top stories.